In December, it was projected that the entire population of 2.2 million people in Gaza would face high levels of acute food insecurity by February 2024. The highest share of people facing this level of food insecurity ever recorded worldwide. And here we are at the end of February, with at least 576,000 people in Gaza, 1/4 of the population, one step away from famine, with 1 in 6 children under 2 years of age in northern Gaza suffering from acute malnutrition and wasting. And practically the entire population of Gaza are left to rely on woefully inadequate humanitarian food assistance to survive. Unfortunately, as grim as the picture we see today, there is every possibility for further deterioration. Military operations, insecurity, and extensive restrictions on the entry and delivery of essential goods have decimated food production and agriculture. Food security experts warn of complete agricultural collapse in northern Gaza by May if conditions persist, with fields and productive assets damaged, destroyed, or inaccessible. Madam President, Excellencies, very little will be possible while hostilities continue and while there is a risk that they will spread into the overcrowded areas of south of Gaza. We therefore reiterate our call for a ceasefire. If nothing is done, we fear widespread famine in Gaza is almost inevitable, and the conflict, which since October has claimed the lives of almost 30,000 people and injured more than 70,000, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza, will have many more victims. We put this before the Council as a matter of urgency.
Brief the Council on the current food security crisis in Gaza. Gaza is seeing the worst level of child malnutrition anywhere in the world. 1 child in every 6 under the age of 2 is acutely malnourished. The World Food Programme is ready to swiftly expand and scale up our operations if there is a ceasefire agreement. But in the meantime, the risk of famine is being fueled by the inability to bring critical food supplies into Gaza in sufficient quantities and the almost impossible operating conditions faced by our staff on the ground.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the ongoing attack on Gaza is not a war against Hamas. It is a collective punishment for the Palestinian civilian people. Our silence grants a license to kill and to starve the Palestinian population. This Council must urgently call, demand for a ceasefire.
Deputy Director General Martina and Deputy Executive Director Scow for your briefings. Promoting food security is a long-standing U.S. priority, and the situation in Gaza is no exception. We urge Israel to keep border crossings open for humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, to facilitate the opening of additional crossings, to meet humanitarian needs at scale, and to support the rapid, safe delivery of relief items to vulnerable people in all of Gaza. Simply put, Israel must do more. I also share your profound concern for the well-being of the more than 1 million Palestinian civilians in Rafah. It is unconscionable that Hamas fighters continue to embed themselves among civilians and civilian infrastructure, including in hospitals and schools. Let's go out to the thousands of families in Gaza who cannot meet their basic needs, and in this context, we continue to call on Israel to improve deconfliction procedures to ensure aid can move safely and securely.
Thank Mr. Scow for his briefing, and I shall now make a statement. Starvation as a method of warfare is illegal, and Guyana condemns those who are deliberately using this as a tool against the population in Gaza.
Madam President, Israel has completely ignored the ICJ order and continues with its appalling genocidal crimes, including the crime of starvation as a method of war.
Observer of the Observer State of Palestine for his state.
That this catastrophic famine and genocide has been allowed to happen at all and allowed to continue for this long brings shame on all of us, not least this Security Council that continues to fail to demand a ceasefire.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for convening today's debate. Israel is committed to improving the humanitarian situation in Gaza, working constantly to ensure the entry of humanitarian aid from numerous countries and UN agencies. Israel facilitates the entry of humanitarian aid, including food, water, medical supplies, and humanitarian supplies through both the Rafah and Kerem Shalom crossings. Additionally, a humanitarian aid delivery channel via Jordan is operational, and more delivery channels are being formulated and discussed as we sit here today. Since Hamas's barbaric attack on October 7th, and despite this atrocity, Israel has facilitated the delivery of 254,000 tons of humanitarian aid, including shelter equipment, water, medical supplies, and of this, 165,000 tons of food. Israel has been clear in its policies. There is absolutely no limit, and I repeat, there is no limit to the amount of humanitarian aid that can be sent to the civilian population of Gaza.
My capacity as the representative of Guyana.